I lost my leg in a vehicular accident, motorcycle vehicular accident, approximately 15 years ago. I was on vacation in Florida by myself, riding from, I'd ridden from Roanoke down to Key West and was going to go back up to New Orleans and Memphis. And on the third day, I went out on a scuba trip. Coming back in, it was a short ride to the real short ride to the hotel, just a few blocks. So I rode, unfortunately I broke a lot of rules I used to have, and I rode in a pair of shorts and tennis shoes. Going through an intersection, a truck coming the other way ran over me. I was hung up under the truck and dragged about 120 feet, I think, up over a curb and into a house. Inside of the house we finally stopped. The reason they amputated the leg was that there was so much vascular damage from my leg being underneath the rear wheel of the truck that they could not stop the bleeding, so they elected after several hours to amputate the leg. I was in the, I ended up staying in Florida in the hospital for about 6 weeks and before I was transported to Roanoke to start my rehab. And at that time, I guess I wasn't, I was very fortunate that I had seen a young man here in Roanoke lose his leg a whole couple of years, about 3 years prior to my accident. So I was familiar with prosthetics to some degree. That we used to be at the same 7-Eleven every morning and coffee. So I saw him. I read about it in the paper, and then I saw him go through the stages of adaptation. I knew that at this point, 3 years after his accident, he was doing anything he wanted to do, from driving Jeeps to playing basketball and working, and so that was a great comfort to me. Once in Roanoke, I met a prosthetist. A friend had asked someone they knew who was in the business to come and speak with me. We developed a relationship, and they stayed with me and gave me some encouragement and advice all through my rehab, and then that probably, due to the extensive damage to my leg, it was probably about 2.5 months after my accident, 2.5 to 3 months. It was almost Christmas, I suppose, when I first got my first prosthetic. And that was 1996. And at that time, there had been a new product on the market for about 10 years. It was silicone liners, which was a great advancement for amputees because of simply the comfort and the way that the prosthetic attached to the limb. It enables people to do things they could never do prior to that. And the old sockets, the hard sockets with the people just basically wrapped, they had socks, cloth and fabric socks as an interface. These new socket systems, these silicone liners, were just a great advancement. I was very fortunate that they had come along at that time. Since then, we've seen tremendous advances in prosthetics, everything from new attachment systems to microprocessor-driven components like knees, hands. These things have enabled people to ambulate in ways they never thought possible 10, 15 years ago. In spite of the technology that's available, one of the greatest challenges to amputees now is just getting the devices paid for by the health insurance companies. When I had my accident, I owned a construction company and had 7, 8 employees and provided health insurance. But when I used to get those policies, I never really thought about amputation. That's the result. Everybody thinks it's a result of some horrific car accident or a farm accident. The truth is, over 80% of the amputations in this country come from vascular disease, primarily diabetes. So really thinking that it's never going to happen to you is not a great idea these days. The problem we have is that insurance companies have started cutting back what they will allow for a prosthetic. Luckily for me, when I had my accident, that was some years ago, turned out that my Anthem policy was great. It covered them. There was no real problem with it. But now, people are finding that most insurance companies, a lot of health insurance companies, are putting $1,500, $2,500 a year caps on their prosthetics coverage. And with the average prosthetic being somewhere between $7,500 and $18,000 depending on whether you're a below knee, above knee, or what type of prosthetic you need. It can be a real challenge, a huge financial hardship for somebody.
He's all over the